I challenge you to resist the urge to sleep. Dear Diary, another day in the life of Abraham Lincoln, filled with endless meetings, tedious paperwork, and the never-ending quagmire of political discourse. Today, I found myself ensnared in a seemingly interminable debate over tariffs. Oh, how I wish I could say this was a rare occurrence, but alas, discussions over tariffs have become a recurring nightmare in the realm of governance. As I took my seat at the head of the table, surrounded by a sea of earnest faces and furrowed brows, I braced myself for what lay ahead. The air was thick with the scent of ink and the faint aroma of stale coffee, a harbinger of the long hours that awaited us. The debate unfolded like a well-rehearsed play, with each participant taking their turn to espouse their views on the matter. Arguments were volleyed back and forth, statistics were brandished like weapons, and yet, amidst the flurry of words, a sense of déjà vu washed over me. How many times had I found myself mired in this same discourse, grappling with the same questions and uncertainties? As I sat through the droning arguments of my advisers, my mind wandered off into the realms of daydreams. I couldn't help but ponder the intricacies of the spider's web adorning the corner of the ceiling. How fascinating it must be to weave such delicate yet resilient structures. A skill far more captivating than the mundane matters of trade policy. The monotony of the discussion was only interrupted by sporadic coughs and the scratching of quills on parchment. I caught myself stifling a yawn more times than I care to admit. Oh, how I longed for the simplicity of rural life, where the most pressing concern was tending to the fields rather than navigating the complexities of governance. Tariffs, those obscure financial regulations that have a knack for inducing sleep faster than a sermon on Sunday morning, loomed over us like a specter, casting a pall of boredom over the proceedings. Try as I might to muster enthusiasm for the topic at hand, my mind wandered to distant shores, to faraway lands untouched by the burdens of governance. I found myself yearning for the simplicity of my youth, for the days spent toiling in the fields under the warm embrace of the sun. How I longed to feel the earth beneath my feet once more, to escape the suffocating confines of these political chambers and breathe in the untamed air of the countryside. As the discussion unfolded, I couldn't help but feel a sense of detachment from the proceedings. The words of my advisers washed over me like a gentle tide, their arguments blending together into an indistinguishable hum. Tariffs, import duties, trade deficits. These were the topics of the day, yet they held little sway over my weary mind. I found myself retreating into the recesses of my thoughts, seeking refuge in memories of simpler times. I thought back to my childhood in rural Kentucky, where the only currency was hard work and the only politics were those of the heart. How I longed to return to those days, to escape the complexities of governance and lose myself in the tranquility of nature. But such thoughts were but fleeting distractions, for the weight of responsibility bore down upon me like a leaden cloak. I knew that I could not afford to shirk my duties, no matter how tedious or tiresome they may be. The fate of our nation hung in the balance, and it was my solemn duty to ensure its survival. And so, with a heavy heart and a weary mind, I steeled myself for the task at hand. I listened intently to the arguments being presented, offering my own insights where necessary, all the while longing for the sweet release of solitude. In my mind's eye, I was transported to a tranquil meadow, where the grass swayed gently in the breeze and the sun cast a warm glow upon the earth. I could hear the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves, a symphony of nature's own making. How I longed to escape the confines of this stuffy chamber and lose myself in the beauty of the natural world. But alas, duty called, and duty must be answered. I forced myself to focus on the discussion at hand, nodding along at appropriate intervals and offering my own insights when necessary. Yet, try as I might, I could not shake the feeling of restlessness that gnawed at my soul. As the meeting dragged on, my daydreams grew more vivid. I imagined myself riding through the countryside, the wind whipping through my hair as I galloped across open fields. In that moment, I was free from the burdens of governance, free to revel in the simple joys of life. But reality soon intruded upon my reverie, and I was once again jolted back to the present. The discussion had moved on to matters of logistics, and I found myself once again thrust into the fray. And so, with a heavy heart and a weary mind, I returned to the business at hand, all the while longing for the sweet release of solitude. In the dimly lit chamber, with the scent of aged parchment lingering in the air, I found myself transported to a distant realm far removed from the realm of politics. I envisioned myself standing atop a rugged cliff, gazing out over a boundless expanse of rolling hills and distant horizons. The sky stretched endlessly above me, painted in hues of pink and gold by the setting sun. I could feel the cool breeze tousling my hair, carrying with it the scent of wildflowers and pine. The symphony of nature enveloped me as the chirping of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves provided a soothing backdrop to my reverie. How I longed to linger in this tranquil oasis, far from the clamor and chaos of the world below. But alas, duty called, and duty must be answered. With a sigh, I tore my gaze away from the imaginary landscape and refocused my attention on the matters at hand. My advisors prattled on, their voices blending together into an indistinct murmur as my thoughts wandered. As the meeting dragged on, my daydreams grew more vivid. I found myself embarking on a solitary journey through the untamed wilderness, forging a path through dense forests and winding rivers. Each step brought me closer to a sense of inner peace, a respite from the tumultuous sea of politics that surrounded me. But reality soon intruded upon my reverie, and I was once again jolted back to the present. The discussion had moved on to matters of legislation, and I found myself once again thrust into the fray. With a heavy heart and a weary mind, I resumed my role as steward of the nation, all the while longing for the fleeting solace of my daydreams. I closed my eyes and let my imagination carry me away, to a place where the stars painted the heavens in a tapestry of light and the air was filled with the heady scent of wildflowers. In this nocturnal sanctuary, I stood at the edge of a tranquil lake, the water shimmering in the moonlight like liquid silver. The night was alive with the symphony of nature as crickets chirped and owls hooted in the distance. It was a world untouched by the trials and tribulations of mankind, a realm of pure and unadulterated beauty. How I longed to lose myself in this tranquil oasis, to escape the confines of the stuffy chamber in which I found myself trapped. But alas, duty called, and duty must be answered. With a heavy heart, I tore myself away from the beauty of my daydreams and refocused my attention on the matters at hand. The discussions continued unabated, the weight of governance bearing down upon me like a leaden cloak. As the meeting dragged on into the wee hours of the morning, my thoughts returned time and time again to the peaceful serenity of the night. I imagined myself wandering through the moonlit forest, the canopy of trees overhead, casting intricate patterns of shadow and light upon the forest floor. But reality soon intruded upon my reverie, and I was once again jolted back to the present. The candles burned low, their flickering flames a reminder of the passage of time. With a weary sigh, I resumed my role as steward of the nation, all the while longing for the sweet release of sleep. Today was another uneventful day. I woke up early as usual and tended to my daily duties as President of the United States. The morning started with a mundane breakfast of oatmeal and coffee. Then I attended several meetings with members of my cabinet, discussing matters of state that seemed to drag on endlessly. After the meetings, I spent some time reading reports and signing paperwork. The monotony of the paperwork was enough to make my eyes droop, and I found myself yawning more than once. Lunch was a simple affair, consisting of a sandwich and some fruit. The afternoon passed by slowly, with little of note happening. I took a brief walk outside to get some fresh air, but even the sunshine failed to lift my spirits. Dinner was another unremarkable meal, and I retired to bed early, feeling exhausted from the dullness of the day. Yours truly, Abraham Lincoln.